Call the meeting to order.
But that'll be
December
good.
8th.
Okay, I'll take that back.
Thank you.
Our first agenda item is open forum. Members from the commission have anything for open forum? Margaret?
Yeah, I was, back at the end of October, I was driving west on Groton Road, and I noticed a trampoline at the end of somebody's dock. And a day or two later, I went by, and the trampoline was out in the pond. So November 1st, I took a picture, and I sent it to Matt, and Matt's been trying to get in touch with the people, because it's still in the pond as of this afternoon.
Wow.
And I'm not sure where we go from here.
I've sent a letter, and I'll keep trying to get in touch with them. I mean, the one positive thing is it looks like next week is going to be warm weather, so I don't think we're going to have a foot of ice out there that preclude them from pulling it out, but I'll keep working on that the next couple days. And
Yeah. When you send a letter, do you send it certified or anything?
I did send it
Yeah,
certified.
okay, just so it's a little more
Yeah,
official.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, just a thought.
Are they year-round residents or are they summer residents in that?
I haven't been able to.
It is, yeah, because it's the house just west of the access for
State
fishing.
ramp, yeah.
The state ramp.
The state rent.
Yeah, in fact, we did,
We did something there.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did,
Yeah, okay. It's a small house.
yeah.
Hopefully get a hold of it.
And I,
Maybe they went away and the whole thing blew in.
It's possible, you had
Yeah,
some gusty winds,
you
you
know,
well,
I'm
know.
just saying.
I thought the nor'easter might have been what got it out of the yard into the water, but it's kind of like, you know, it can't stay in the water over the winter.
Understood.
It shouldn't even stay in the water, but anyway.
Yeah,
So I just kind of,
They may not be there.
yeah. And then I took the response I got last month, or at our last meeting, about the, you know, the small-time farmer we have, back to the Agricultural Commission, and they kind of said, okay, yeah. The only concern that they have is that when she tilled the supposedly decomposable black stuff into the ground, they were concerned about that there were still pieces that were visible, and they're talking about maybe getting together a bunch of volunteers to go and pick it all up. And I'm really on the fence about that, because that's really kind of,
Somebody else's operation and
Yeah.
not theirs.
yeah,
So it's kind of like imposing their will on somebody else.
Yeah,
yeah,
they need to leave it alone.
okay.
They
And,
need to what?
The land's leased to them.
Yeah.
It's like any leased property. I mean, you can't trespass
yeah,
on
okay.
someone's leased property, so.
And that was kind of the direction I was going, but I wanted to check with the
What was the
commission.
issue with it? Aesthetically displeasing? Did it, what
They're
was?
just, they
They
question
are
whether
pretty
it's
much
actually
needless.
biodegradable, that it's not tilled enough that it actually disappears.
Well, maybe it doesn't need to be tilled enough to disappear. Maybe it just needs to be,
Yeah. So,
you know,
Okay.
nothing's ever going to be homogeneous.
yeah,
I just want to remind you, you know, that it's a new cycle for the
Yeah.
CPA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom meeting. Anything else from the commissioners? Anything, Yvette?
Yes, Derek Masterson, the Eagle Scout candidate who was doing the handicap viewing platform out at Grassy Pond. His project is complete. I think the only thing left is for him to put on a little plaque saying, you know, his name, date when it was done, thanking, you know, the volunteers, all that kind of stuff. And also, the building commissioner and I will be heading out to Eagle Scout candidate Gotham and Noop, who was proposing the footbridge on, over the stream on the Kloppenberg Trail back beginning of the spring, I think. We're doing a final inspection out there as well, so there should be a certificate of compliance coming along with kind of his project, end of project report.
We have a list of all the projects they've done for us. It'd be nice to
Maybe a
have that.
long list.
I know, it'd be nice to have that, or
Yeah.
nice to maybe at some point.
I don't
Do a
know if we have records
recognition.
and stuff going all the way back.
Yeah. No, but I'm just thinking at some point it might be nice to do
I
a
can't
recognition.
You've got all the
Make it an
minutes.
Eagle Scout
You've got all the
project.
minutes of our meetings, they're all mentioned in there.
Scout
Just go back to the last 30
There
years
must
or
be a
so.
way, there is a way on a computer to look for certain words, like scout
Yeah.
or something like that. I think we-
Gotta be at least 100.
No, but I just think there might be something nice that we could do from this board at some point,
Yeah.
recognizing the difference they've made in Westford, that's all.
Anything from the audience on open forum? If not, we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing issue order of conditions for Eagle Scout Nation, Nathan Zoo, Bixby Road Footbridge. You guys read through the orders?
Yep.
Everything good? He's not here, everything's good with him.
I have no issue with
Approve the
anything.
order of conditions?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I did receive an email request from him this afternoon seeking to work between December 1st and April 1st for, there's school vacations that he's looking to get volunteers to help construct, and also the flow of the stream, maybe, if it's the commission's pleasure.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're good. Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:35 agenda item, which is a public hearing for Gregory, 52 Lakeshore Drive North. This is an IDA.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 7:55 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability application of Dan Gregory for repair of an existing rock retaining wall approximately 45 feet long and 32 inches high along Nabnasset Lake at 52 Lakeshore Drive North.
Welcome. For the record, your name?
Dan Gregory.
So just give us a brief description of how you want to do this.
Well, the rock wall's deteriorated, mostly because of the wave action from the lake, and it's holding my rocks out. So I need to repoint the wall, maybe put in a stability factor. I don't know if I'm gonna use concrete or just more sand, and then the wall should be more stabilized.
So is it pointed now? It looks like it's just stone that's just set in freehand and not pointed.
It was nice and flat when he first put it in, about 20 years ago. And over the years, I think the water wasn't properly vented out, so it's just been coming out and pushing rocks out. And it's amazing how far some of those rocks went into the pond.
But this is actually this was actually pointed in with concrete.
No,
But you're going to point it with concrete.
well, I'd like to put some in there for stability, yes. It's not gonna be a concrete wall.
That's a little different than what you have. You know, typically when we're replacing these things, you know, we've been using those larger boulders, sort of like a revetment. What you'd be taking is a freestoning fieldstone wall and turning it into a concrete pointed.
No, it's gonna
That's
be,
all I can tell. You're telling me you're gonna point it, it's not pointed right now.
Maybe
So
I'm
you're
using-
gonna use concrete to point this where it's not pointed?
use concrete to hold the rocks all in place,
Right, but there's no concrete now holding these rocks in place, correct?
not as far as I know.
Okay.
So is the concrete going to be on the backside or the lake side of the rocks?
It'll be towards the backside and hold the rocks, and then another one will go on top.
So concrete between the rocks or as a continuous backing of the rocks?
No, between the rocks.
Okay,
It's,
so kind of like a mortar almost?
yeah, it's just for stability.
Different than freestanding that he has right now.
Yeah. And the freestanding allows water in the ground behind to go through?
To go through, right.
Yeah, is that if
In the
it's,
last couple we've done freestanding, but larger stone.
yeah.
Different, it's a
As
different stone.
opposed to more of a, you know, a pointed tucked in with concrete approach to allow stuff to move
But
down.
he's not replacing all the stone, he's doing some kind of stone.
Yeah, well, you're just planning to redo with the existing stone?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, is there's heavy rain, there's water behind it,
Just gonna push it, like we've seen on these other ones too. The freeze-thaw keeps on pushing these things out that are locked in, like we just had the other one along Sockport Pond done, and then they were just gonna do that other one on Lake Nap, I thought, with the larger stone. So they weren't having that issue. See, I think you'd have that issue here.
What are you talking about by larger stone? Those giant construction things?
What were they using?
2 to
Like
3
2 by
foot.
3, 3 by 3
large, just
boulders?
basically large boulders put in place with rocks behind it, so that the boulders are big enough and heavy enough that the wave action is not gonna cause them to move.
I did have someone offer to do that, but then they couldn't get a crane to get those boulders down there. And I don't think I'm gonna get a large to float them over.
Well, the person that was doing it, I know on Long Sockport, wasn't using a crane. He had like a little bobcat or something like that, and he was moving stuff with it.
Can't
There
get a
was no
bobcat
crane
there either.
involved.
Yeah, but he
I
may
have
have had
50
easier
feet.
access to the shore than this location.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
I have a narrow space on either side of the house to get to the lake.
I know we were trying to get away from kind of doing it the way that's been described, because I know it's just gonna end up pitching out and needing to be, continually to be repaired.
No, it won't. I'll have the water drain right through. I can put a French drain in, that'll bring it right out.
Well, then I think that if you want to propose something, we'd need a little more than, I mean, I've got this and a description, but typically we would want to have a more detailed description on how you were going to do it.
So how it would be assembled, how water from behind it would be able to flow through, you talk about a French drain, I think what we're asking for is more detail so we can better understand
The construction.
the construction and what the finished product will look like and how it will
Well, I
function.
think you want the finished project to kind of look like it is today.
Yeah.
So I get that, but yeah, definitely more detail. You in agreement, Peter, or what?
Yeah, typically, when you're gonna back that whole thing up with mortar, it's just, the water builds up behind it and pushes it out into the lake. I mean, that's,
You guys are talking about a solid rock, concrete wall behind the rocks. That's not what we're doing.
Well, it doesn't really tell us what
What you're gonna do.
Yeah,
And this is, yeah, if we can
it just says
have,
it's gonna be repaired, but it doesn't say how.
So I guess we just need more detail on the how.
We're all for saving the wall.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
this is just to make sure that your work is not in vain.
But we've also seen how this stuff just gets pushed out, the smaller stone, once you,
And that's what happened over the last 20 years for that wall.
yeah.
so I would request more info on construction.
okay, you're all in agreement? Okay.
I have no problem with that.
So we'll continue this to our January meeting,
Okay.
okay? Can a motion to continue this to our January 12th meeting? Is that a second?
You gave a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, thanks.
See you then, sir. Happy holiday.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our 7:40, which is a public hearing for Bloom Energy, 1 Robbins Road, Sonadier.
Under Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 7:40 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability application for Bloom Energy CO Gregory Oros for the installation of a fuel cell facility within a previously disturbed area adjacent to the Nokia Corporation building within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 1 Robbins Road.
Welcome, for the record.
My name's Gregory Orris. I'm a senior planner with Bloom Energy.
And I'm Nicole Hayes with Goddard Consulting.
I get just briefly from the Bloom end of this. We're proposing to place foundations behind the Nokia facility at 1 Robbins Road. I'm not quite sure. I think we're looking for a negative declaration this evening. I don't believe we're affecting any buffer areas or wetland areas with the revised plan that I sent Matt a couple days ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
so when the Nokia facility was constructed back in '84, actually I'll go to the next plan, this may show it better. This area here was constructed as a detention basin, but over time, I'm not sure if it has been maintained as a detention basin and if it's acting more like a wetland, you know, an isolated wetland now where it's, I mean, it's full of cattails. The other detention basins on the property have saplings starting to grow in them. So it's not, there is the exception in the Wetlands Protection Act for constructed detention.
It's easy enough to give them a conditional negative determination.
Exactly, that, you know, it's, you
So
know,
I'd
for.
rather go there and, you know, put a couple of restrictions on that, but, you know, can move forward that way. But I'd like to hear a little more about the proposed project.
What would you like to know?
What is this fuel cell? What is it?
Okay,
Yeah.
what we do is, we take natural gas and water from the Nokia facility, and it is passed through a meter into the fuel cell system. It's a solid oxide fuel cell system. So in other words, the natural gas goes in, it's a non-combustible electrochemical reaction that creates electricity, that drops into a bus underneath the fuel cell and goes into the Nokia facility. It runs 24/7, 365. When Nokia powers down or it's quiet times with electricity, there's a reverse meter, so the electricity goes back into the grid. So it's always producing electricity, either into Nokia, and when Nokia slows down, it goes back to the grid. Like I said, it runs all of the time. It is almost zero emission. There is natural gas involved with it, and just a tiny bit of water at startup. There's no cooling water. There's no water circulated through it. It's a package system. Basically, the foundation goes in, the fuel cell is delivered along with some ancillary equipment. There's a water deionization unit, and there is a couple of smaller filters inside of the water system, and that's about it. It's a highly technical system. I'm a planner, but basically speaking, I guess I've done about 60 of these installations behind Home Depot, Targets, data centers. And this is a relatively smaller system. It's tucked up behind the building. It's in an area, grassed area. It's already been disturbed. And from what I can tell, I guess we're not affecting any wetland resources with our proposal.
So the only thing that comes out of the unit potentially is water? DNI is
No,
water?
the only thing that really comes out of it is maybe a tiny bit of water vapor through fans above the servers.
Yeah.
It's air cooled, so maybe a tiny bit of water vapor, but water's only used for startup. Once it's started and running, there's no water even being put in.
So when the building's demand for electricity drops, the electricity being generated goes to the grid.
Right.
In the case of where the power is out, you know, we've had something that disrupts power to the site.
Right.
Is that energy the electricity being stored anywhere? Is it still able to flow back to the grid, or?
Well, what'll happen if there is a blackout,
Yep.
the server understands technically what the need is just for Nokia at that point. It
Okay.
can power itself down to the base load of what Nokia would need.
So it scales itself back. It's not it's continuing to operate, but not at the same level it would, as it would.
Correct.
Okay,
It notices the base load that's required for Nokia at all times.
okay, and it just scales its operations
Right.
back. Okay.
And it's monitored 24/7 in San Jose, California, and in India. So if there's any anomalies, something that doesn't look right, it gets shut down remotely. We're going to go through the planning process with the town, a full site plan application and a building permit application. So I'll be doing this again. But it's a relatively safe system. It's always monitored. If anything ever happens to it, let's say, God forbid, a truck runs into it or something like that, it shuts itself off.
This is just a great opportunity to learn more about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll be at the planning board meeting with probably much more than this.
Where's the best place for me to read about this? Because I don't, from what you were saying, I can't understand what it does.
I have a couple pamphlets I can give you before I leave, if you'd like.
Okay.
We have a website, bloomenergy.com. We're a public company.
Does this impact, like, this is in a, like in a grassed area, like you said,
Correct.
previously disturbed?
Right.
But You know, this is an area that they probably considered as probably some sort of open space or green space as part of the previous application. By having this impervious space, does that do any, put them up against the amount of impervious space they're allowed to have?
That's up to the planning board.
Okay, just was curious.
Yeah, so that's up to the planning board. There's nothing here that's going to affect us. There's
No,
no,
I mean, I can see a conditional negative with some very basic, conditions in place.
yeah, when they install it, yeah.
Will the planning, from Kate, will the planning board be, looking at like what chemicals are used, what the solid oxidizer is, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, they'll look at everything because, yeah. Okay?
Yep.
So we good with this? I mean, it's 92 feet away too, so.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Are they gonna, will they need to put up any hay bales or anything in the?
They're showing erosion controls just at the edge
Edge
of
of it.
disturbance
Okay.
along the,
All right, so we're good. Conditional negative with the order.
And then we can- if we can, but they should probably leave it open until they get finished with the planning board? Or we can close it.
You want us to close it, or you want to leave it open?
If the
I mean,
planning board
I don't
wants to
think you're
tweak it, we have to
anticipating anything
reopen
from
it
the
again.
planning board, are you?
Well, as I understood, this evening was a standalone approval for just Bloom Energy.
It is, but this is what happens. If you go to the planning board and they change something that affects what you've got on file with us, you gotta come back and refile with us.
But what would the planning board, from a land use perspective, change?
I don't know, but I mean, I can't read their mind, but they might, and that might solve.
This would save you money to
So
keep it
it's better
open
for
though.
you to-
What if they say they don't like where it's going? Well, whatever the
or
reason.
ball, if they want types, can crash bollards or,
Yeah.
again, I don't,
It's a safeguard.
We're looking out for
It's
your
like a
best interest.
safeguard for
I
you.
understand what you're saying.
It's up to you.
So long as I get myself into application, I'm good. And then I'll answer the questions as it advances. That's not a problem.
Okay. Do you want us to close or not? You want us
Oh,
to?
could we give, so
Well,
it's
first we're gonna do a
really, do we do a
conditional
conditional
negative.
negative?
It's up to him. He can
Okay.
decide whether he wants it.
What do you think?
You want us to leave it open? You want us to go ahead and issue the conditional
We
negative?
tell everybody to leave it open, just to let you know.
In case something changes and.
Yeah.
It has happened in the
It doesn't
past, but I'm just
stop you
saying,
from
I mean,
doing
it's your
anything.
decision. If you feel comfortable the planning board's gonna go with this and they're gonna say,
I
that's
understand.
fine, they're not gonna make you dig up the parking lot, because, okay, what if they say, oh, we wanna have a trench around this, and you gotta dig up the parking lot? Then you gotta come back to us and file, because now you're disturbing.
We
within the
have no
buffer.
issue, so you're not getting resistance here, you're getting an opportunity
To
to.
have flexibility
Yes.
later.
How long
Yes.
is the planning board gonna be?
When are you meeting with them?
Oh, I haven't made application yet. Within a month, for sure, I'll be applying.
But it doesn't hurt you to leave it open.
Okay, then let's leave it open. That's understandable.
We'll
Plus.
So, do you know when you're gonna be on the planning board agenda?
I have no idea. I haven't even created application yet.
Oh, okay, so we'll put this off to our second meeting in January for now.
In January?
Yeah,
I should be submitted by then.
okay.
So
So
maybe February?
Well, you'll want to be done with it.
you wanna
Yeah.
be done with it, just to make
Maybe
sure.
February.
At least have tentative approval for it.
I mean, I don't know what the agenda of the planning board looks like, so I don't know.
Yeah, but if.
They'll be meeting
We can
probably
always
around the first
continue
week
it
in
if you
January.
don't.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
we'll put it off to the 26th of January, okay?
to here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Because you probably won't be doing this, are you planning on doing this in the winter here?
Construction?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say early spring.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
you're
so you
fine.
have
Yeah.
time.
So
We
we'll put
want
this
to be accepted, in other words, up and running
Yeah.
by the end of the second quarter, which is
off-
June
that's-
30th.
that's fine. We'll put this off to January 22nd for the
Great.
plan.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
I
so
appreciate
motion to
it.
continue this public hearing, what is it,
January,
26?
yeah,
26.
26.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you're good.
Thank you.
You have that material for,
Okay, we're moving on to our 7:45 PM, which is a public hearing at 124 Main Street, Lot 4.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Matt.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 7:45 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the notice of intent application of 121 MSW LLC for the raising of a building overhang, renaturalization of land previously disturbed, and associated grading and planting related to redevelopment of the existing dwelling and construction of a two-family dwelling within 200 feet of a perennial stream and 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 124 Main Street, Lot 4.
Welcome back.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants here to submit these digitally.
Thank you.
Here with me tonight is Joe Cataldo with 124 MSW LLC. We're here tonight for one of the lots at the former Hicks farmhouse, 124 Main Street. It's lot number 4. It sits in the middle. It's the lot that houses the existing house that the Hicks family lived in, and the office building on the left-hand side of this view. We're here tonight. It's the lot 4, and as most of you know, we've been in front of this board for the past year or so, delineating the wetlands along the back of the property, which abuts Douglas Road, which is off of Kersey Circle. We're here tonight to propose convert the dwellings into 4 units. We've been to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We've gotten approval for the conversion of the farmhouse, which is on the right-hand side of this screen. That doesn't work so well. To convert the existing house into 2 units under the conversion bylaw. And then we got a special permit to change the office building into a carriage house, which will also be 2 units for a total of 4 units. The Zoning Board of Appeals issued their permits. We filed with the Planning Board for site plan review. That hearing opened up Monday night, 2 nights ago. The initial hearing went pretty well. We have engineering do their review on the stormwater, but otherwise there wasn't limited comments, at least expressed at the initial public hearing. Tonight, and Matt, I don't know if you can advance another slide. So this is the proposed development. On the left-hand side, the office building is on the left-hand side, and then Bob Hicks and Marie's house was on the right-hand side. That we kept, and the goal of this development was to pull the development as far forward. We met with the abutters before we filed, even with the Zoning Board of Appeals. We had an abutter meeting with most of the residents along Douglas Road and some on Kersey Circle. And obviously, we had done an application with the Zoning Board of Appeals a year back with another applicant, and we had gotten some feedback from the Board of Appeals on that. And so when the Cataldos bought the property, we had kind of made a lot of the recommendations from those hearings and pulling the project away from the resource areas, maintaining that the view shed along Main Street as much as possible, minimizing tree cutting, disturbance to the curb cuts access. And so they worked with an architect who's going to redevelop the house so that it fits 2 units really well. And then the office becomes a carriage house, which is kind of subservient to the primary residence. It has a low profile, and so and then we put the garage parking out back. And with that, it improved site access, it minimized the amount of pavement, the turning movements, pedestrian movements, all those kind of planning board issues. But what it also did was minimize the amount of pervious areas that we had on site. Currently, as you know, the Hicks property had a lot of buildings, a lot of outbuildings, accessory structures, and parking and access to those structures. With this development, we're removing about 9,000 square feet of impervious area and restoring a lot of the riverfront in the buffer zone. The resource areas include a bordering vegetated wetland off-site just to the north, which is just off the view of this screen, and then the riverfront associated with the unnamed brook that's a tributary to Tadmuck Brook. That's to the east, to the right of Kersey Circle, or to the easterly side of Kersey Circle. The development focused, obviously there's going to be improvements with parking and utilities. Upgrade the stormwater improvements were consistent with some of the other lots that we've developed in the last month or so. There's a series of small rain gardens and roof drains to help break up the runoff as much as possible and spread it out, and disconnect the impervious areas as much as possible. And with that, we've also provided the board with riverfront calculations. There is disturbance within the riverfront. You can see the line, the riverfront cuts along almost midway through the lot. And then the 100-foot buffer is back. And so what we've done with our development, which included all the calculations for the amount of disturbance, if you read through it in the reports provided, there's a lot of information to read and process. But the gist of the goal of what we were able to do was in that riverfront area in particular, it was restore all of the area in the back of the lot, the northerly end of the lot, which is currently horse pasture, and I think it was actually a seasonal riding ring at times when the farm was active. So that's restored to a natural meadow. And that's dictated by this kind of tree line that we've delineated on our plans, is that this is the area that would be restored to a natural meadow. The area in front of that is primarily the area between the 100 and 200-foot riverfront, which is primarily now mostly pavement, is removing all of the pavement and restoring that to mostly a lawn area. There is some meadow down in this corner, but for the most part, it's converted, or it's taking disturbed land and providing it, improving it to a lawn area.
Taking disturbed land and improving it into lawn area?
From impervious, from pavement to lawn area and vegetating.
Yeah, it's all paved back.
No, I get it.
Native meadow vegetation, is that what?
The meadow is in the 100, primarily in the 100-foot
Yeah.
riverfront.
Yeah.
The 200, let's call it for the 200, the area between the 100 and the 200 is primarily vegetated with lawn. There is a portion that's meadow in this corner. And I apologize, we don't have the 100-foot riverfront, which mimics this line here, and it's here. So primarily it's lawn area. There are a couple of features that were incorporated into the design that were, in working with the abutters, there's an earthen berm that's at the end of the parking lot. That's to help screen headlights for houses along the back of the houses on Douglas Road. So it's 4 feet tall and 20 feet wide, and it has a planting berm on the top with evergreens. And that was to screen headlights at the parking area from traffic movements. And then one of the smaller rain gardens is in the 200-foot riverfront buffer in the back left. I can answer any questions on disturbances, but DEP did not have any comments. I'll take any questions.
Kim?
One question about I noticed you have, the water comes off of Main Street, and, I'm sorry, water used to come off of Douglas Road, the water right of way. Now you have it coming off of Main Street.
Yeah,
And the gas is off of Main Street. What's gonna happen to the water main that comes off of?
It's already been disconnected. So what I think, and we did this with the Hicks family a long time ago, I think they had water on Main Street all along. And then at some point, Bob put in that connection over to Douglas Road. I don't remember what the purpose was. I know it, there was some concerns that it, disrupted some of the flows on Kersey Circle. And so when they redid the water line recently, that was disconnected and the hydrant's been removed. And so that's no longer active with the water system.
It's disconnected,
It's
there's
disconnected.
no pressure in there at all?
Correct.
And you're gonna use it?
And now we've already taken some of our services off of Main Street
Yes.
and extended them out of the right-of-way for this
Great.
development.
Thank you.
Eric?
So, I see the original plan here. I see you're showing me something that's happening right here. But did you say this was subdivided into 4 lots?
6 lots altogether.
And so I'm seeing 1 is 6 lots.
Yeah.
So why isn't that segmentation? I'm looking at one large lot I've got it segmented now into 6 lots. I'm looking at something that's happening on 1 lot, but I don't know what's happening on the other 5. So shouldn't I be looking at this holistically, the whole thing, and not divide it up? Because it is 1 lot as a whole right now.
No, it's not. It's already been approved by the planning board. This
Or
was
the-
subdivided over, what, 2 years ago?
I think it was 2019.
2 years
Okay,
ago.
but we've seen other things that have shown a slightly different approach, so they currently have,
But
because what they're
this-
showing us now is this, shouldn't they be
Yeah.
showing us the 6 lots then?
No, because they're all by different
Yeah,
owners.
but they're only showing me this whole lot, it's not showing me that it's been divided. They're showing me this one entire parcel, they're not showing me the 6 parcels.
Yeah, if you want to see it on there, you can put it on there. But am I right? There's what, at least two owners of these parcels now?
There's 6 lots. 1, 2,
Right.
and 3 are owned by one owner, Deca Corporation, and 4, 5, and 6, which is 124 MSW LLC, which is the applicant for this lot. So we have control of lots 4, 5, and 6.
These were all
It-
considered A&Rs then?
Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
And lots 5 and 6, you can correct me, are, all the proposed work is outside the 200-foot riverfront buffer.
Correct. We've gotten, obviously, septic permits that we applied for and obtained stormwater permits for 5 and 6. We've had a pre-construction meeting for the stormwater permit, and there's been a building permit issued for lot 6. Lot 5, they don't have a buyer yet, so they haven't applied for it. That's the only reason. And there's no work within the 200-foot buffer on lots 5 or 6.
Just was wondering if they were gonna trip the 10,000 gallon threshold for a packaged wastewater if this wasn't an A&R. So I don't know what's happening on the other lots.
Yeah, but I mean,
They're separate items, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I
They
was,
are.
when I was looking at this, I was seeing
Yeah.
the one I didn't realize, I hadn't considered, and I was looking at the one I
yeah.
thought, well, that's
I mean,
segmentation.
he should have put all the lot lines in here, to be honest with you. I mean, and Matt, you can put those in on this, can't you?
Yes.
Put the lot lines in for us, okay. I mean, I'm really familiar with this, because Habitat for Humanity was there for about 15 years, and they were one of my clients, and so I worked out of that office a couple hours a day for about 8 years. And this really is a big improvement from what was there.
I'm sure.
Because it was a mess back there, on the backside of this lot, so.
I'm not saying it wasn't, I was just looking at this as one lot, and then seeing
Yeah.
it, and to me, I was saying, okay, it's segmented, are they, you know,
Yeah.
in doing something like that, typically we would wanna look, if it was a single lot, we would wanna look at it in its totality.
overall, I think this looks good. I mean.
Yeah, I'm not
inside-
saying that it's not
inside
so
the 100
far.
Inside the 100-foot is
Yeah.
all,
It is.
revegetated, and inside the 200-foot riparian, there's just some shrubs and a couple of, and a dry, what do you call it, a rain garden.
Yeah, because the meadow's a much better thing, I mean.
No,
Now it's all horse stalls, horse land.
but are they gonna maintain that, or can they leave that as?
No, you're just gonna leave it as a meadow, right?
The intent was
Eastern berm
that,
is-
at least with this lot in particular, is that, where it's permitted and has no consent application, is to be maintained as a meadow and mowed twice a year. Late fall or late spring, late fall.
Yeah, that's great. Because right now, it's all
We don't want them to
dirt.
really maintain even on the, the outer 100, to the extent that, so if they're just gonna plant the meadow, you'd hate to have it be maintained, just, go ahead, Margaret.
Well, yeah, because that's where I was going, as soon as Matt's finished with his notes. So, looking at where there's the planting berm, and then there's lawn beyond it, and then we get to the meadow, and I'm wondering what the purpose is of having lawn, which I'm presuming is for the use of the unit owners, between that planting berm and the meadow.
Initially, yes, we haven't developed the condominiums or a phasing plan or, exclusive use areas to that extent.
Okay.
But there was, the intent is that each of the units will have a backyard space, whether it's,
So back there,
and then
you,
they'll have some common area that,
so that area between the planting berm and the meadow is intended for active use? Okay, so there could be swing sets there, it'll be mowed weekly,
But that's not what we should be, even though we have disturbed area now, if we have an opportunity to to make that undisturbed in that outer riparian zone, we should be trying to do that. So I can see it being a meadow and all of that, that's fine. But if we have an opportunity for it not to be maintained, I think we should, be trying to get there as that goal. We have an opportunity now.
One thing I did forget to mention in the landscape plan, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but with the landscape plan, there was additional plantings to help delineate the meadow area, and then kind of the usable space to the south of the lot. That additionally provides additional screening for the abutters on Douglas Road. So, and it shows up on the landscape. It wasn't showing up on that other plan, so I forgot.
So that's gonna get into exclusive use areas for each group of unit owners, so they have a place that if they wanna set up a swing set, if they wanna set up outdoor furniture, they've got a place to do that. I think one of the things I would be concerned about is somebody thinking that they could build a patio back there, because then, that's taking us again into, maybe the kind of development we don't want
I
to see.
think the less use in the outer riparian zone, the better.
Yeah.
To whatever extent we can make that an area that's just left as a meadow and not maintained or used, because when there's the opportunity to use that, what we've seen in the past is that tends to get creep and expanded over time. And, to the extent that we can just keep folks out of the 100-foot riparian as far as, utilize and mowing and disturbing it, I think the better. And we have that opportunity.
We can certainly revisit it and discuss that and take your comments into consideration for sure.
Jim?
One more thing, Noel and I had just been comparing our notes here on the planting plan, the
Yep.
pictures over there on the right. And between the two of us, we'd searched through to find out which plantings are native to the area and which ones are not. And there's a couple that we're pretty sure are not. The Chesapeake Japanese holly is native to China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and Sakhalin Island. It has good berries, but it's not native to the area. Then there's another one, the ivory silk Japanese tree lilac, that probably won't survive in our climate zone. And you had a couple.
I just had a question about the Japanese holly.
So I think
Exactly.
what we need to have is
We're
these
not
checked to
sure.
make sure that they're
We could certainly,
plants that will survive in our climate.
any plantings that are within the resource areas, we can certainly make sure that they're native plantings.
Thank you. Any comments from the audience on this application? Yeah, just come up to the mic and identify yourself.
Joe Vizella, 9 Douglas Road. So I actually have a piece of property that's directly behind this piece of property. I guess first question is around that lawning in the RFA area. So if you visit that site, it goes down pretty steep back there. So as far as like fertilization on that land, any type of, that stuff's going to go right into that creek back there in the stream. So I am concerned about that. The other is the vegetation on the berm. So I was the one that raised the need for screening because we're going to be the ones seeing all those headlights, and they were good enough to add that berm. But I'd like to understand, as far as those, I think right now they're considered evergreens, which will be a good screen. But is that going to be acceptable to the committee?
Yeah, as long as they're native. Sure.
So as long as they're
As
native?
long as they're native plants.
Well,
Yeah.
the question might be, depending on the native, because we see
Well,
what,
an evergreen might just,
Yeah, it's-
might
it's-
not give you the protection you want, because if it grows too tall, it's,
All
it's
the
not
little
gonna,
branches
it's gonna be too
die off,
high,
and
and
you've
your
got
lights are gonna go underneath
almost
of
no
it.
screening.
So, yeah, I'm looking
Depends
for,
what kind of.
for those that know best.
There's plenty of evergreens that don't lose their lower
An
branches.
arborvitae screen or some,
Yeah.
some sort of screen from the bottom up, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's something, with a trunk or something like that,
Yeah, so they'll provide what they're gonna put on that berm for vegetation.
I'm an expert in
Yeah.
landscaping, and I'm sure he has something to offer.
Okay,
So I'm Joe Cataldo, and my son and I are developing this property. More than likely, those would be dark American arborvitae. they're the most deer resistant. I can't tell you that they're native to Massachusetts, but I believe they're acceptable. If they're not, my other thought would be red cedar. It definitely would not be white pine, you're absolutely right, they get too leggy.
Yeah.
With respects to the grass from the berm to those shade trees, we will make that an exclusive use area, but we haven't written the condo docs yet, but clearly, when we do develop this, we'll define areas where the patios will be, and those will not be down in that area. We'll keep those closer to the units, and those will all be in the condominium documents, that if somebody wanted to plant a plant or something like that, it would have to be acceptable within that group of, that homeowner association, but clearly we can control where those patios develop without question.
Well, we could just say the patios have to be outside the 200-foot the outer riparian.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, we can do that in the order of conditions.
There's plenty of
okay?
room, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can just put them, once it's outside, that's up to you guys.
Yeah,
And this is where we've had an issue in the past with another development, is the homeowners association then went off and created all these things that we were not even aware were being considered, until all of a sudden we start to see a lot of
They
activities.
were already in, and then they wanted blessing after the fact.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to answer those questions.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
And as far as like the trees themselves, like how mature are they gonna be when they're originally planted? Are they,
I think generally they're about 2.5 inch caliper. I'd have to we would mimic the subdivision control bylaw and what their requirements are
I
typically.
think you're looking for, instead of a caliper, you want to know the height.
I wanna know, yeah, even the ones that create the shade between the RFA and yeah, like they present to be very big.
So you don't end up with something
Right.
like this, and you're waiting 5 years for it to get
Exactly
height
right.
where it's providing the screening.
Exactly.
Those will be minimum 2.5 inch caliper. The Japanese tree lilac, you're correct, that was an error. It more than likely will be a Amelanchier shad or something like that.
That is, but.
Amelanchier is shadblow. It's one of the first ones, the flower that you see. It's a white flower along streams. It's native to New England.
So just so I know, so it's a 4-foot berm. How high will the trees be when you plant them?
So those trees will be, more than likely, those will be 6 to 8 foot high arborvitae. So you'll be, so that the car headlights will be hitting the berm itself. If you think about that desk, that's probably about 30 inches. So those car headlights will be hitting the berm as they pull in, Joe.
Yep.
And then the arborvitae, which will be thick right from the stem up, will be another 6 to 8 feet.
Okay.
So we can say like 2.5, 3-inch caliper and a minimum height in our order. That way, that satisfies your concern.
It does.
Because if we simply say caliper, you don't know, I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
If we specify a height, we're all gonna know.
And they go pretty fast. We planted some at our summer place 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, they
And
go.
and-
They're
and
great
they're 35 feet high.
No, they're great.
Okay, and I only have one more question, and I'll sit down.
Okay.
Yeah, something I don't understand is, there was something called a rain, what did you call it, a rain?
Rain guard.
Yeah.
So, why is that in the RFA? Why would that, every time I've done something at my house, it's always about, let's make sure we don't add any more drainage into the RFA.
And what we did was, and it was trying to capture in areas where we can capture the the runoff from the grades that are established with this development. 2 of the rain gardens are out in the front to capture runoff before it goes towards Main Street. And then the rain garden that's in the upper left behind the carriage house is to help capture some of that runoff that's being directed towards the riverfront.
It's a fancy detention basin.
Yeah.
It's a
It
planted detention basin.
retains, it's retaining the water, and he's got plants in here that
Yeah.
help take it.
Yeah.
So-
Ends up looking like
That's really
area, more than like a
Yeah.
detention basin.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Peter?
Come on up.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Jen Bozella, and I live in back of that property as well. And I'm actually concerned about the mowing of the wetlands meadow twice a year. That stream is almost like a highway for fisher cats and deer and fox and mice and voles, like everything. And I feel like by allowing it to be called, to be a meadow most of the year, we're encouraging the animals to use it as habitat, and then by mowing twice a year, we're cutting their little mouse heads off. Like, I just...
They don't mow it down to the ground.
They don't? Okay, because when I buy hay, I occasionally do get a mouse head in it, so, just...
Never heard of that, but I
I
mean,
didn't either.
that's why we're trying to get it so it's not being maintained
Right.
to the extent possible.
I don't want to put anything at the 200-foot marker, but how about some kind of 100-foot wetland buffer markers at the 100-foot?
Well, we should have that anyway, but they shouldn't really, we should be trying to discourage most activities in
Yeah.
the outer riparian, other than, passive.
I could work with Matt offline and we can, I don't think the 100-foot buffer or the 100-foot riparian would be effective as maybe the limit of work or something that's more restrictive.
Okay, that's fine.
I think that would probably, it would kind of delineate that meadow area and/or any revisions that we make within the 200-foot buffer.
So do you want to continue this to the first meeting in January?
Yes, we're planning to meet with the planning board on January 3rd, so
Okay. It'll be January 12th.
that'd be perfect.
So a motion to continue this to 12th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to our 7:55 PM agenda item, which is a
In a
public
what?
hearing for Endmoer, 174 Main Street.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 7:55 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability application of Ahsan Anwar and Nadia Ahsan for installation of a fence, construction of a 10-by-10 shed, and a 12-by-12 extension of an existing deck within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands at 174 Main Street.
Hi. So, I'm here because, like you said, we wanted a fence. We wanted to put in a fence, and we wanted to extend our existing deck, and also for putting in a shed. So, permission for that.
This originally came before me with a building permit for the additional deck. There is an existing deck that they're adding on to. And with the inclusion of the fence, and just from past experience with the Chestnut Hill Estates properties, I knew there were some wetlands in the common land back there. In your packets, I've highlighted the property owners have annotated the septic plan, which does show the wetland buffers.
So, it seems like I can see the 50-foot bordering so I got the 50-foot buffer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like the closest is 29 and a half feet from that 50-foot buffer, so we're looking at 79.5, almost 80.
Yeah, for the deck, and it's currently stone underneath. Again, just also with the fence, I know the commission is often concerned about prohibiting wildlife corridors to the east end, or the Chestnut Hill Estates common land is a horseshoe around this property, so there are wildlife corridors on both sides of the property. I know the homeowners were looking to fence it in for a little bit of screening and also security for the families.
There's a trail that goes right by it, so just to add some privacy.
Don't have any trouble.
All good with
I'm
it?
fine.
Okay. Motion for a condition of negative.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go.
Thank you.
Good to go.
Wait, motion to close the
Oh, your
public-
motion for the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you're good to
We're
go.
all set.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to our 8 PM, which is a public hearing for Quinn, 71 Endmoer Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 8 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability application of Maureen Quinn for abandonment of the existing failed septic system and installation of a replacement sewage disposal system and associated grading within 100 feet of Lake Nabnasset at 71 Endmoer Road.
Good evening, Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant Maureen Quinn at 71 Endmoer Road for the upgrade of a failed septic system. The existing system is to the left of the existing dwelling as you're looking at it. It's currently a septic tank and leach pit. Leach pit is in failure. We've done our soil testing, and typical of Nabnasset, it's a coarse sand gravel type soil. As far as the offset to water table, this area sits high above the lake. There was no water table encountered to 9.5 feet below the surface, and I'm sure it's quite a bit lower than that. There's probably a 20-foot difference in height between this area and the lake itself. So the system is proposed to the left of the house, the new system. We're approximately 70 feet from the lake with the nearest corner of the leaching area. This system, as designed, is a new septic tank. It's a 2-compartment tank as required by local regs. And that is feeding what we call the leaching gallery system. This system is effectively 2 precast concrete structures butted end to end and then surrounded with crushed stone to create the leaching area. I chose that for a couple different reasons. Usually when I'm in here, I'm proposing an innovative alternative type system. Usually that's because of a concern to the elevation above the water table. In this case, we've got quite a good offset, so I didn't need it for that reason. So I opted for this one. It's more of a conventional type system for 2 reasons. One, if I had gone with the innovative alternative, it would actually have been longer front to back and would have put me a little bit closer to the lake horizontally. But for me, practically speaking, I think a little bit more of importance is I can make this, because it's precast concrete structures as well as the tank being precast, they can be made what we call an H20 wheel loading, so they can be driven over. This happens to be the only area to access around the house. So I just felt that since it was their only way of getting anything around the back of the house, if they needed something in some sort of emergency or construction type situation, this is a type of system that can be driven over. So because it happened to be a little further from the lake and was sitting so high above the lake, I felt this was appropriate for this situation.
So my only question, and I hear everything you're saying, was why couldn't that system have gone out in the front, outside of the 100?
Well, yeah, it's the driveway, there's a water line there, and there's a retaining wall to the right of the driveway. It steps up considerably to the right of that retaining wall, which eliminates that area. And so it just seemed to make sense to keep it out of the driveway and away from the water line.
I guess if he's telling me he can't put it outside, and he provides the rationale, but without the rationale, we'd say he couldn't put it within, because it's not max, right now, unless he tells me he can't put it outside of the 100, he's not meeting maximum feasible compliance.
Yeah, but he's putting an approved system over what's there now.
He is.
Yes, yes.
But and I'm assuming the old one is sitting right where he's putting the new one.
Yeah.
But he could still put in a
Leach
new system and be more compliant than the existing, unless he says, I can't put it outside of the 100 because, like, the water line and some other issues, but he should provide that, even though the old one was closer, within the 100, because he can be outside of the 100 potentially, unless he says he can't.
Well, he just said he could because of the water line.
But, you know, we need to put that in our findings or something as the
It-
reason why.
So it needs to be part of the.
Right,
it
because
needs to be
somebody
part
says,
of
oh,
the
you
RFP.
allowed this, why, you know, and
Okay.
I don't have that written anywhere.
Yeah, I would say as part of the finding that putting it under the driveway is something we'd rather not do, and it would add a variance to the property line.
Yeah, but that's not enough that's, just because you have to do that, you could do that anyway. I mean, you could you're telling me this has to be driven over, and it would still be driven over out here.
It
So-
would, but what you would add then is, when you're under pavement being impervious, now we've got to vent the system because you try to stay away from being under pavement if possible because of the lack of oxygen to the system.
So you simply have a candy cane event versus one that doesn't have that vent. But I'm still not seeing how he can't be outside of the 100.
This is a better
I
system.
mean, other ones are, well, it's not. I mean, we only allow maximum feasible compliance when they can't meet the standard. He can meet the standard.
But there's also Title V standard.
Unless he can, unless he provides the rationale on why he can't meet the standard, he should. Just because you might like it somewhere better isn't enough rationale to say you get to do it because you're meeting maximum feasible compliance when he could meet the standard.
It sounded like he was creating other problems for himself as well.
Well, no, it wasn't. He didn't like certain things, but it didn't mean he
Let
couldn't
Peter
do
say
it.
something.
He
I
can't
don't- I
move
don't
the
agree
water
with you.
line.
I don't agree with you.
No, then he has to provide the rationale.
Well, he can do that from that. I don't have trouble with this.
The rationale is, if you can avoid being under pavement, you should. And under Title V, and this is my rationale as a designer, is it's maximum feasible compliance. So they do take into account cost. And
Yeah, but we don't.
We
I
don't,
know you
yeah.
don't,
So
but
don't
you're
even-
asking,
Now, see that, and
you're asking my
Yeah.
rationale.
he should provide it written to us, and then we should accept it or not.
Well, put it in writing, that the water line is going to interfere with it.
The water line's there, it's pavement, it just,
But you can't tell me it's cost. You,
well,
and just
Can.
provide it, and then we can use it in our findings. But we shouldn't have to write it.
so you want a written explanation of
It's
my
part of the
rationale.
application, it's part of the application, okay? Just put it in writing why you can't put it out front, that you've got a water line to deal with and the water line can't be moved.
Okay,
And then we can refer
And you
back.
had other issues with, a wall and stuff like that. That all was, good. But, later down the line, when somebody wants to do something, they say, well, you allowed this here. We can say, well, this is what we were running up against as part of the findings. But we shouldn't have to put that together.
okay.
So we'll continue this to January 12th, just come back, part of the application. Well, it's a field system.
It's a failed system and pushing it off
Okay.
till
So-
next month
All
with the
right, so
weather.
we can approve this on the condition that he
That he'll
supplies
submit
the
that to-
Provides the rationale.
rationale.
That would be fine. That-
Yeah,
I'd
I'm
appreciate
fine
that.
with that.
Okay, so a motion to that
So
effect.
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
You'll
Just
get,
get that to him, will you, please?
you'll get that to Matt.
Motion to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're moving into our 8:05 agenda item, which is a public hearing for Jenna Caucus. I hope I didn't butcher that. I'm sure I did. It's 7 Gooseneck Lane.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, at 8:05 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability, application of Les Chernauskas for removal of the existing failed septic system and installation of a replacement sewage disposal system and associated grading within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands at 7 Gooseneck Lane.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. For the record, here on behalf of the property owners at 7 Gooseneck Lane, Les Chernauskas. Similar to your last RDA application that was just discussed, we're here tonight for the replacement of a septic system on Gooseneck Road, which is in the Lakeside Meadows subdivision. It's kind of in the southwest corner, to the west of Shipley Swamp. This lot is tucked in between Blue Heron Lane and Gooseneck Lane, which are the first two cul-de-sacs on your right if you come in off of Depot Street and you're heading towards the lake. They're two small cul-de-sacs with probably 6 or 8 houses on each lot. There was a small wetland that was located in between the two cul-de-sacs with houses on either side of the wetlands. I actually looked at the aerial, and you can see the wetlands even before the development was created. There's a little pocket wetland. Since this lot was developed and was mapped for the subdivision of Lakeside Meadows, we had it reflagged by Norse Environmental recently, and the wetland flags have grown and the wetland has gotten bigger. I'm not sure if it's just kind of today's standards or if that's an area that traps water and the wetlands are just getting bigger. But nonetheless, when we did our soil testing, we're off to the back of the house. On this plan, you can see the septic tanks are adjacent to the house, and then it pumps up to a leach field that's exactly where we have this one proposed today. The wetlands come along, and then they go down, and then they come back, and they come back onto the lot. The property line comes along, and it's kind of a long, narrow lot with frontage on Gooseneck on the northeast section of this plan. The house with a driveway up in front, and then the 100-foot buffer comes in and comes across the house. So the area that's outside the 100-foot buffer is restricted to this small area that's about maybe 75 feet long by, I don't know, 15 or 18 feet wide. This is the 15-foot setback line. So we were limited, and obviously they have the utilities that come in off the front, and they're shown here going, the water and the gas main coming. But so we were limited on finding an area that was outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
So where's the existing?
The existing is right exactly where we have it. It's a trench system. We had designed it and submitted it to the Board of Health as a trench system. And the wetland flags kind of changed our design a little bit, and so we came up with a Presby system to kind of take advantage of the reduced area that a Presby system provides. You can reduce your leach field by up to 40%. And so we kind of squished the system, if you will, into this area so that we were able to maintain the 50-foot wetland buffer.
So is this Lakeside Meadows?
Yeah.
So how did this, we had our outside of the 100-foot when Lakeside Meadows was built.
Wetlands grown.
The wetland was back
Yeah, it
here.
was way back there, and it's
Yeah, way back
that
there.
much?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the plan, I think certificate of compliance plan from,
Correct.
yeah, the as-built from,
And you can see the 100-foot wetland buffer is here.
There's the 100
Okay, and
foot.
that's actually now almost a 50-foot.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Because I'll be honest, I had some choice words for Matt when I got the proposed plan the first time,
He didn't call me right away, he waited until.
Okay.
That's
So
amazing.
it surprised me as well, because when we were out there, we're always looking for wetlands, you know, when we're citing this and we're doing our soil testing, you kind of look off in that direction. I'm pretty good at citing wetlands and usually staying away from it. It didn't look obvious to me. And we kind of proceeded with our soil testing, and then Norse Environmental came out and, you know, hung 25 flags that were, you know, fairly extensive. Other things that kind of limit the septic design, we did do testing off in the front, in the northerly end of the property. That was unsuitable. It was shallow depth, or it was unsuitable material from when this was a gravel operation. There was test pits done in between the house and where we have it proposed. That was unsuitable material. And so, similar to how we designed it originally, this lot goes right up to where it gets really steep up against Nutting Road. So Nutting Road is probably 50 or 60 feet above this house. It sits, you know, literally above this house. And so we put the septic system into that virgin material without disturbing that steep slope. So we pushed it as far into the hillside as we could without cutting into the hillside. And, you know, the vegetation, it's not, we don't want to cut into that hillside anymore. So we kept the septic where the existing one was, and we're here tonight for your approval. Hopefully I included that in my narrative. I'm not sure if I did.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, you know, you have some room outside, but clearly I can see where the wetlands move, but, you know, and again, indicated why you're restricted from putting it outside the 100. I guess if we just had that narrative.
Yeah,
then
just make
it's
sure that's
fine.
in there. You can, if it's not, you can get it to him after the
I can
fact.
certainly get it. I would have thought that I would have included it, but
No, that's why, you know, we want it, but it's, I can understand, and they're putting that, you know, the leaching field right back with the old
Yep,
one.
with the
was,
old
so
one
that's-
is, yep,
That
okay.
makes sense.
Yep,
yep, no, and I'll make sure that I include the items that we just discussed tonight, from the wetland buffer, the areas,
And that one up top there, that would have been even closer, so that wouldn't have worked.
Correct.
So, you know, yeah, just provide the narrative, I think
Yep,
we're all set.
we can certainly do that.
okay. Any comments from the audience on this application? Can I have a motion for conditional negative?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Motion to
very
close the
much.
public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Do you want to take the 5 Blacksmith and?
Yeah, well, you want to do that next?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to just go out of order here, the certificate of compliance for 5 Blacksmith Drive,
I'm not
Thank
getting
you.
a word he's saying there.
334-1309.
Yeah.
So this is the commission saw this last meeting, and the conservation posts have been installed, and
Did I get
the former homeowner has provided
So it's
photo
somewhere.
documentation that's been added to the file for the, I think it's 3 to 4 feet off the buffer, off the fence. So they've complied with the enforcement order
I have
and
it.
are
Thank you.
issuing the order of condition, or the certificate of compliance for this project.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 5 Blacksmith Drive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mary. Yep, good night. Okay, we're going to move on to our
Thank you.
8:10 PM agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing and issue order conditions for Byrne Avenue Realty Trust, 12 Byrne Ave. Good? You good with this?
We're good with it.
Good with
Excellent.
it? Any questions on the order?
Nope.
Good.
Can I have a motion to approve the order conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good to go. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our 8:10 PM is a continuation of a public hearing for Mooncake, 73 Endmoer Drive. Where are we on this?
So got fidgety. A planting plan was prepared by the applicant, showing, and a site visit was held yesterday with Margaret and Jim and I.
And Ann?
Yeah,
Ann was
yeah,
there
I
too?
said Margaret and
Okay.
Jim and I.
Oh, Ann.
Yeah, and, yeah. And, not and. And to look at and review, the house location, which was, the exposed corners were staked, understand better the topography of going down towards the lake, and what the proposed hearing system would be looking like. Additionally, the scope, the types of retaining wall materials, as boulders are being proposed at the water's edge and interlocking block systems are being proposed further up the second two kind of walls. And then also the proposed reviewed trees that are being proposed to be cut on the slope and around the house. Most around the house are being specifically removed due to safety concerns. There's a lot of tall white pines, and proposing composition of red maple and yellow birches along that or I guess north side of the property, and some other native plantings as well on the kind of tiered systems. I get it up.
Did a fine job.
So you guys want to report on what you saw? Jim?
Sure. One thing that I was really pleased with seeing was the plan on the northeast corner of the lot. That's, right now, it's just an erosion problem. It's been happening for a while. There's nothing that prevents all the soil from washing away from these huge pine and trees down there. The root balls are almost half exposed. And the plan to put in 2 retaining walls, so you have 3 tiers, down at the lake level, a mid-level, and a top level, with shrubbery at the lower levels, medium-sized or small trees at the second level, and then larger trees up at the highest level, I think will be great. It'll replace a lot of the trees that are being taken down, and the trees that are being taken down, the ones nearest the house are really close to the house, like you're talking a foot, 1 foot from a foundation. I'm surprised it hasn't pushed in some of the foundation wall. But clearly, those are accidents waiting to happen on top of the house. So I'm pleased with the terracing system in the northeast, the way Dan described that to us. That I think is going to be a big improvement, and it'll make the house footprint is going to add a little bit more space along the sides. It'll be a little bit smaller left to right on the lot. Overall, I like what we saw there and what was described. And this plan that we're looking at here in our packet doesn't include the details of the 3 terraces. That's on the other plan that came with the electronic version. And one last thing, everything, all the pavers that are going in are gonna be pervious.
Okay, yeah, it says impervious. Let's make sure that.
Typo in the plan, but all the pavers going in are gonna be pervious.
We just did that to make sure everybody was paying attention.
Yeah. So my only comment then, I had 2, now I have 1. It says here, all plantings to be blueberry, hemlocks, winterberry, or wood ferns. And I would say the hemlocks would probably get wiped out due to that little bug that kills them, that's, destroying the hemlock. So I would pick something else that probably would have a better survivability rate.
Right.
Because they're just, whatever that is that kills hemlocks, it's definitely in Westford and taking them out.
That's fine.
Other comments from you guys that went? No? You good with this? How many trees are actually coming out, do we know?
Being removed, what do we count, 8?
8 trees.
But we're planting, I think we have a total of 10, with a total of that, so.
Yeah, everything else I'm good with.
Okay, so we'll continue this to January 12th, issue the order.
For the order of conditions, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. That works?
That works?
That works.
Any comments on this application from the audience? Seeing none, we're going to continue this to our January 12th meeting. May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Dan, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to our 8:15, which is the continuation of a public hearing and issue order of resource area delineation for KMR Realty, 59 and 63 Hubbard Street.
I think we're going to another public hearing for,
What was 8:15? No?
oh, it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was 8:10. This is,
No, on Canvas. 8:15.
8:15.
yeah, no, I thought we were gonna be around 8:15.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
All right.
Mark you. Yeah.
Good evening, Mark Slager from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of Premium Homes and KC Building LLC. We were here the first time with a wetland delineation plan.
Yep.
Matt had a chance to go out and meet with Norse Environmental. There were a few extra flags established, both connecting the front wetland and the rear wetland along that stone wall. And there were a few additional flags hung out towards the street, towards the east side of the property. I did clarify on the plan where the wetlands, which side of the line the wetland is on, as you mentioned, adjusted the buffer zone lines, and here we are.
You good with this?
Yeah, and I think there was some confusion the original time it was delineated just as to the scope of the property, but, yeah, appreciate the time to go out with Norse and
Okay.
review the line.
All right, so, motion to approve the area delineation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You're good, thank you. Moving on to our 8:20, which is a pre-filing appointment with Dave Guthrie, 74 Endmoer Road.
Hello, everyone.
Right.
All right, if you recall, we were here a few years ago with a tear down and rebuild.
Yep.
This is the new house. This is the plan that we submitted with a certificate of compliance. And what Mr. Guthrie would like to do is add another garage bay onto the left end of the house. And that entire work will be contained within the area that we were allowed to work before. There won't be any grading. Whatever grading would be required would be finished off with the extension of the foundation wall being higher than necessary for the garage, but it would be there for the support of the soil off to the left of the house. And I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Dave, and he can give you more detail.
Yeah, I mean, we came in May of 18, and I think we had talked a little bit about a garage at that point, and I think you guys were content with the original house. Things have changed in the 4 years or 3.5 years. I work from home. I have 2 children that drive. And the biggest factor there is we built that turnaround primarily for, if you remember, there was some discussion of putting the garage on the right and shortening the driveway, but that T turnaround there was primarily for the snow removal equipment to come down the road and turn around, which they had always done. The burden we're finding now is the delivery package system has changed substantially. We probably have 10 to 15 trucks come down there a day, not necessarily from my house, although we do our share, to come down and turn around. The neighbors don't want turn around in their driveway. They're technically not allowed to turn around in their driveway, so they come down the end of the road. We have 3 additional cars since we were here in May of 18, and that area is congested. So, Mark and I were talking about potentially coming back to add a garage on that end, get some of those vehicles out of the way, and allow for really the change in time, which is package delivery at home.
So when you originally did this, and from my memory, you wanted to do this then at the original, and we didn't want it that close.
Correct. Yep, that's what I said.
Right?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
And I remember that too, that, we went out there, we did our site visit, we looked at it, this was originally proposed. We had issues with it back then, and I thought we all agreed upon the existing house, and here we are back with that. What was looked at in the beginning when we did our site visit, and we were like, well, you know, those pines over to the east there of the proposed addition, we were worried about all that and things happening, and then having to have an addition, and then people being concerned, and then wanting more trees cut down, and we just thought, you know, I think those were some of the reasons why we were like, okay, we wanted that existing house layout the way it was, and we weren't in favor of that, you know, additional construction there on the east, so I don't know what's changed in my opinion since then.
Right. Yeah.
I think what's changed the most is the lifestyle that we've been living with respect to the COVID, which is forcing more people to work out of the house. And also more people, not just Dave, but the entire neighborhood, they're more reliant upon things like Amazon Prime and other package delivery systems.
That
It's
has nothing to
creating a-
do with a proposed addition for a garage. I mean, they
Why
can
would you
still
say
come
that?
down and turn around, and I get that, you know, you might have more cars, but that doesn't necessarily drive us to, I mean, I don't see why that would have bearing.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, the reason why we didn't want it there the last time was because it went right up to where we didn't want any disturbance. And we know what's going to happen. If you put that on there, you sell the house down 10 years from now, 15 years ago, the new people are going to move in, and they're probably going to come proportion and say, we want to cut these trees down because they're right over our roof now.
Actually, if you've been down there recently, which I think you have, I don't know that you made it to my property, the trees aren't close to the house.
Well, they're fairly close.
We'll hear
It
it.
will be when the addition's on, when you move in at 16 feet
A
closer.
100-foot pine tree, if it was going to fall, would either fall on my house or the addition. I don't know that that's a factor, quite honestly, guys. These aren't 20-foot trees, these are 100-foot pine trees. So if they're going to fall, they're going to fall probably on my neighbor's house as well. I don't know that necessarily falling on a garage is gonna we're not proposing living space above it, so, I mean, I think, you know, it's that area of no disturb, which is the markers that he has on the left, they all stay. The topography stays, everything stays. I carve into that hill a little bit, I put the garage wall in, that stuff remains undisturbed. I have the ability to access the house from the right-hand side, so I don't lose anything, and I don't need to come back and claim that I created some hardship, but now I need to level that portion of the area. It doesn't exist.
No, somebody else will come in and say that they need it because of safety. I really don't see any difference here.
Yeah, I haven't seen any reason to change my mind from the original application.
Well, I guess if somebody could come back in 10 years, Mr. Farley, and claim safety for those trees, would you grant that removal? Because if that's the case, I guess that's my argument now. They are 100 feet tall, and maybe my house is in jeopardy. So if you're going to grant them in 10 years, would you grant me the removal of those trees now?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to grant you the proposed addition.
I
if you do
understand that.
That was just one reason.
Well, that's a separate issue, but I'm asking, if you would grant it then, would you grant it now?
We'd have to go back and look at the condition of the trees.
Doesn't that?
Most people who come and say they want to remove a tree are telling us that, you know, the tree is damaged or in some other way going to have an impact. And then they usually have an arborist or something back that up.
And I agree with you completely. That's the point to my question, is if the tree in 10 years is stable, then you're going to say no. If the tree is not stable, you're going to allow them to do that. The addition is irrelevant at that point. It's much like if I asked today, we would assess this tree, and you would say they were healthy, and I would agree with you, and they wouldn't come down. But the fact that the tree's there, adding the addition to it is not going to make the tree any more a liability. They're 100 feet tall, they wipe out the entire house. So we take the trees on the basis of which they are, which they're either healthy or they're not. And I think your argument, not an argument, forgive me.
No.
Your explanation to me now for not removing the trees would be the same one you would use in 10 years.
I also remember when we were out here and we were looking at the totality of this project and all the work that had been planned. You know, we took all that into account with the existing home, which I believe is, you know, certainly larger than the one that was there at the time. You know, I still don't see it. I'm not in favor.
Other comments?
One of the things I look at is with how tight the site is so we, from time to time, have people come back that say, we don't have space around our house. One of the things that that area provided where the addition is proposed is that gives you space around your house. And we've had people come back to us saying that they don't have enough outdoor space around their house, and I would not want to give up that space that's livable for people to use, in terms of something that people say, you know, we don't have the space to be outside, we can't get around that side of the house. That's something that we keep in mind when we look at a site overall.
I can appreciate that, but isn't that something I'm offering to give up?
Yeah, but once again, you own the house now, you know, when you sell the house down the line, we know what's gonna happen. We absolutely know what's gonna happen.
It doesn't seem fair to deprive me what I'm hoping for because we're worried about a future buyer someday. I mean, they're going to buy the house knowing what they're buying. I mean, it's be clear to them. You could stamp this plan, never come back to conservation.
Dave, it was clear to us when we did this original project that we didn't want the house to go any farther close to those markers. We had this discussion on your property. I remember standing out in that side yard.
With that conversation, Peter, I mentioned that. That's the first thing I said.
Conversation, we were all there.
I know,
We were like, this is what you were gonna get. This was the biggest house you could put on there. You built the absolute biggest house we thought you could, and now you're asking us for something more.
I think
That's the way I remember it.
I completely agree.
Okay.
That was my opening line, Eric.
We're not
But I think
disputing what
society
was
has
said on
changed a little
site.
bit, that's all.
Okay, well, anyways, I think you have this is just a discussion item, so I think you know how we feel, so.
Well, I've heard from two. May I hear from the others?
Well, Margaret already gave
I'm
her.
sorry, three, Margaret. I didn't mean to discount you.
Well, according to today's standards, this house really wouldn't even exist on
That's
this
true,
property.
no.
Wouldn't allow any of this to be there by our standards today. So to add to it, I can't concede on that.
I think we approved the maximum that we could previously.
Okay,
The house is sitting on 50-foot, on the 50-foot line already. There's no place to move it to the south, because you got the road there. It's crammed into, only place you can put it. Expanding it puts it further beyond the boundaries.
So if I pulled inside of that 55, would you be okay, Jim?
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can. You have a distance from the roadway.
I guess maybe I'm not understanding where the 55 is.
This is the 55 right here.
Are the lines 30 and 50?
30 and 55, yes.
30 and 55.
Not marked, but I measured using the scale, looked like 30 and 50. So the house is sitting, half inside the 50-foot line.
So if the addition was kept completely outside the 55, would that go?
I don't know, because so many things happened well within that we allowed at the time, because we weren't anticipating doing this. I just feel like it's one more thing.
Well, keep in mind, there was a portion of the house inside of that, Eric. It's not all entirely new inside of that 55. There was,
Right, there was
No,
the old house.
but it certainly was enlarged quite a
I agree
bit from
with you.
what the old one was, and now you're looking to yet enlarge it again.
Dave, you can't go up.
So let's just, you got at least 6, if not a, unanimous not in favor.
I mean, you've heard from us, I mean, it's a discussion item, so, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to put an application in, you're entitled to do it, so. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yep. Okay, we're moving on to 825, which is continuation of a public hearing for 28 Lakeshore Drive North. They've requested a continuance to January 12th.
Yes.
Looking at a motion to that effect?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And our other 825 for Greystone Pond, they've also asked for continuance to January 12th. Motion to that effect?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 87? Come on up. 87 Granite Road to discuss potential violations. So just identify who you are and where you live.
John Tandis, 87 Granite Road.
Great. So Matt, you want to take this
so
over? Since
the commission received a letter last meeting, from a butter concerned about the stockpiling of materials. And again, the commission received a letter. Here's the copy for you guys. So showing the stockpiling of materials. I don't have my laser pointer right now. Here we go. Generally where the mouse location is, in a cleared area. Met with Mr. Tandis last week and heard about the history of the property as a garden.
Well, let's go back. My grandfather bought the property in 1922, so it's going to be 100 years in the family. Basically, I bought 2 acres off that property that Karen here owns. And when I bought the farm from my father so he could move to Florida, I took over the place. I sold my 3 Granville Road and had Brim take the 2 acres and bring it down to .66 for that lot to be sold. So I maintain about 6 acres there. Now, up and back, it goes from an A to a B line.
You've got a yellow laser pointer on that, if you hit the yellow button. Awesome.
Right here, there's a line that comes across. I think this is B and that's A, if I'm correct. Try to do some business back there about building ahead and number of people come in. I moved this line over so I can maintain a 50-foot right-of-way through here. My driveway goes down and back for the tenants in the back. And I put a circular drive in, remodeled the house to a standard. I've got 3 tenants, I'm one of them. Redid the little shed. The barn used to be here years ago.
Just press exit.
And it used to be a 4-apartment building. So my son-in-law, Mark Jarvis, having a business, we said, well, let's do a little mulching back here and just build up his debris from landscaping. And we have a gentleman comes in and helps Mark out. We cultivate it. We have 2 big loom piles right here that Mark's planning to sift out at some point. This shed's been there probably, I know it's been over 100 years. I'm breaking it down because I'm paying taxes on it since 2000, and I'm paying for taxes on all that wetland. Originally, Jeff Brim was gonna come through here, out this dry spot to get to this project, but he made a deal. I thought it was kind of shady over here to get in, because they told him he never could. But he gave him 2 houses, so they put it in. So back here, I tried to build something back here years ago, and it wasn't enough. The property's an acre of dry land, if you look at the original drawings. And over here, when they put the development across the street, it's way less than an acre, and it goes right into the wetlands where the Sergeant's Mill are. So I got blocked out there, and a number of people came in and looked at it. So right now, we'd like to continue letting Mark use it for a place to do mulch, loom piles, and pretty much that. I'm looking at other options, but I'll have to come back with that later on. I'm just looking to keep it the way it is. We keep it clean. We're taking that building down. It's a small one. If I take that down, I was told that I wouldn't be able to put another one up. So I want to know if I can, in this area here, put in a metal building. I don't have a size yet. I would have to come back with it. I know the buffer comes up right in here. We're not filling in along the tracks because I know that's the water comes up in there. So we got a little line right there that Mark saw it, everybody's seen it. It's all still open, not filling anything in. It's just right in here is where we're doing the little build up the loom. I'm not going back here, which I probably could. This ditch that's along here, my grandfather hand dug back, I can't even tell you. And this was all open fields, and this was all garden all the way down through. So basically, I'm still looking to do something with the property, talking to a number of people, but for now, I'd like to just continue with a permit to let Mark use it to continue mulch.
So have you been out there, Matt?
Yes, I have been out.
Carol's been there, and another lady.
Yeah, Henry and Sierra also originally went out to look at it. I mean, it is disturbed from the, you go back to 2003 on the imagery, and it's not as clear, but it's certainly disturbed, something was going on there. And, I mean, when I went out, it is, leaf debris, from the landscaping business at the time, and I didn't observe anything. It's hard to say, what piles are there, what the time that piles arrived,
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, I'm looking at the photos, trying to figure out how close he is with his activities to the resource areas, and I think They're in
the resource areas, they're in the buffer.
So, we,
In the wetland, in the stream.
there's no need for him to be stockpiling stuff in a buffer or a resource area, if he can keep it outside of it.
Now, the buffer, the water comes up through here, and this buffer thing comes around. But this brook that my grandfather dug, we haven't gone anywhere over there. Years ago, my father put in some little blue culverts here, because Palmer that had that house said he was getting a little backup. My father had somebody put in 8-inch or 12-inch blue pipes in there. And that's about all that was done there, and I don't remember when that was done. I was out of town for 10 years, just moved back last year. So basically, we're just right there. And that's not, it's in the buffer zone, but not the wetlands.
Right, but it's within the 100-foot.
Yeah, it's certainly within the 100-foot buffer. I mean, the shed is probably, as the plan that was.
There were activities that weren't permitted and pipes or whatever were installed, and I don't know when they were. I'm just saying, we should just, if we have the possibility, we should be keeping activities outside of the resource and the buffer to the extent possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're telling me of that, okay, I understand. These piles,
Yeah.
I can move them right up in here, right
Yeah.
over in that area.
If you move them outside the buffer, you're all
Put
right.
them right there, and I'll, over here, if I'm outside the buffer there, I'll put the piles there.
Because if somebody's looking at doing something, we're not gonna be letting them be doing things closer to wetlands and resource areas just because there might have something been previously disturbed.
My other question is, talk to Shane, and back when Jeff Brim was trying to get back there, we were going through all this hassle, 10 years or so, and Brim was gonna put 40B back here. He decided not to because he got through that way.
Yeah.
If 40B goes below 10%, and that's over an acre back there, I believe I can put a building like this down there with 40B. Because according to Doug DeShane, your paperwork is this high for regular buildings, 40B's down here.
I guess I don't know, if right now you're showing me one contiguous parcel that already has buildings on it. So, I don't know if.
Right there, there's over an acre of dry land right there.
Yeah, I understand that, but
How do you get to that?
it's not currently
Right
carved
down,
out of
right
it.
there.
So there's already a path going over this?
There's
entire
a
area?
original driveway that goes all the way out.
Okay.
That's been there for, back in my grandfather's days.
Well, it has to, it has to be shown and it just can't have existed at one time, but not be
It's still there.
continuously used.
Still there? Okay, well,
But
that's up to him.
Yep.
He has to just demonstrate
You have
that.
to demonstrate it, that's all.
So if I wanted to put a bigger building in this, because it's already a shed, my grandfather had put a big metal facility up here,
Yeah,
like a 50 by 40 metal. There'd be no septic involved. It would be for my son-in-law here if he wanted to bring his business in.
it's gotta be outside the buffer, or you gotta.
Okay, yeah, I understand
apply-
that.
But you're gonna have to apply for, through the building department.
Yep, no, I'm just telling you what the future.
Yeah,
And this building here, talking with Harold, because it was 3 units, really 4, he thinks I can put 1, 2, 3 buildings right there and go down and do a 40B later.
Well, that's
not us.
That's not us.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul Sincotta.
Wait a minute, I'm not, you'll be recognized in a minute. Right now, we're still talking to the applicant, okay? Just be
But
patient.
just so you understand who we are, we filed a complaint.
I understand that, but
Just so you understand
be
who we are
patient, we'll get to
representing
you, okay?
Absolutely.
Be patient.
Please sit down.
Okay, so yes, if you move those piles out of there,
I'll put them right up here on this side out of the buffer.
right, you've got to move everything out of the buffer.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And I can file for permission to continue to use it.
Yeah, well, once again, you got to check with
That's fine.
planning, that's all, okay? As long as you're outside our buffer, you're all right.
I can do it. I can put those piles right there.
Okay, you can move
They
it.
don't be outside of our jurisdiction.
Right.
Huh?
Then you're outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay, and what do I have to do as far as this line? Because I'm gonna put a fence right around this whole thing. It's no fence.
Well, once again, if you're gonna
It's
put
outside
something
our
up, if it's
jurisdiction.
outside of the buffer, you don't have to come to us. If it's inside the buffer, you gotta come to us, all right?
Fine,
We're good?
for now, perfect.
You want to address some of these, I know? Yep, just
Mr. Chairman,
identify yourself.
Thanks, and Commissioners, thanks for just letting us speak for briefly. My name is Paul Sincotta. My sister Karen Sincotta owns the property next door. It's
Okay.
83 Graniteville.
Yep,
Could you just use the pointer and show us where you are in relation?
Yep.
Orange one in the middle.
The yellow one. There we go, awesome.
So that's 83 Graniteville. This is 87 Graniteville.
Okay.
We prepared the two written materials that have been submitted to the commission. One was dated
Yep.
November 1st with the photographs. There was one that's dated today. I think what hasn't been discussed at all today, and it would seem to me that if we're talking about jurisdictional boundaries, then a delineated wetland needs to be established first, right? So then you know where 100 feet off of that is. So there's a significant amount of this 6 acres back here that is delineated as wetlands. There's an A&R plan that's on file
yep,
with the town that has a delineation. That's part of both of the letters that we filed. That delineation obviously is dated, and I fully would expect there would have to be an updated delineation.
and he wants to build back there, he's gonna have to do that.
Right. And so the thing that's a little bit discouraging, and Mr. Tandis is now talking about pushing a commercial operation for a commercial landscape business that is well within the buffer zone here, pushing it outside the buffer zone and spitefully placing it right up against the boundary. We'll fight that fight when we get there in terms of wherever the buffers lay themselves out. But,
Right.
and I know that it's not the purview of the commission to be talking about uses,
Right.
but what is clear is that this is a commercial operation that is staging construction materials, debris, some of that debris is being buried, stumps, surplus landscape materials, all in a residential zone piece of property.
If he was burying stumps and doing that stuff, that would probably be a Board of Health issue if it was outside the 100, because they might have concerns about the breakdown of stumps and things like that, creating tannins and other issues that, could have
Yeah.
impact.
But the use, whatever he's using the property for, that goes before planning and ZBA, okay? If he doesn't have a use for the property-
Understood it doesn't fall under the purview of the
Right.
Conservation Commission.
I mean, all we can do is, part of this is, since this isn't an application, this is a violation, and we're asking him to move the operation out of the buffer.
Outside of
And
the
that's
buffer.
all we can do.
Would there be any plans to restore those impacts to the wetlands? The stream was filled, there was a culvert placed in the stream to cross the wetlands, to pile materials on the other side of the wetland boundary. Clearly, there's been a lot of discussion about the ability to subdivide this land. This land has long been constrained by the amount of wetlands on it. And moving a commercial operation here to creep and change wetland boundaries over time is not a strategy that falls under the Wetlands Protection Act. And it's very, very discouraging and disheartening that we talk more about Mr. Tandis's plans to subdivide his land than we talked about the resources that need to be protected on this property.
Actually, I don't know about that, because we've actually just said, hey, whatever you're doing that's in the resource area, we want you to pull it out of the resource area. That in itself is more protective. Now, if you're saying that, well, he's gone in and done additional things like, put in piping, making culverts, doing other things, I don't know if that's part of this. I'm looking at the piles. I saw something about some piping and stuff like that. Is that something that we're addressing as part of this?
Well, I saw the piping, and as,
All I can say is this, if I may.
Yep.
I've been in town since
And
'79.
you are?
Mark Jarvis. I went to schools in this town. I've done a lot in the town as far as lighting the center of town. I've been part of the town for a long time. Jack's been gracious enough to just let me dump my grass clippings and my leaves and whatnot, so I can turn it over eventually and just get some screen loam out of it. So he's been gracious enough to help me out, so I could actually compost it, and I also take stuff out for plantings and whatnot. That's how it is. It's not a commercial. He's just been gracious enough to let me, it's been in his family for a long time, and that's all that we're doing, and that's it.
That's fine. I don't want to get into the use anymore.
Yeah.
We're just concerned with what's going on in the buffer.
Yeah.
And he's agreed to move your operation out of the buffer.
Yeah.
And that's our concern, right
And if
there.
there were other things that happen within the buffer or the resource area that need to be addressed, we need to address that.
Yeah,
There
Matt?
should be a restoration plan.
And this isn't leaves, this is
I can't, you gotta come up to the mic. You gotta come up to the mic and identify.
This is asphalt piles and
There
not
was-
grass clippings.
There was a couple, and Mark, I called him and he said the guy come and took them
More
out.
than a couple.
Oh, he took them out.
This is a public hearing. There's no discussion in the audience, okay? Everything goes before the board, all
Thank
right?
you.
If you want to talk, you go up to the mic, identify yourself, and put your comments on the record. So, I mean, he's our field agent. He's been out there. If he needs to go out again, he'll go out again and relook at the site, okay, and report back to us.
Yep.
All right, and that's what we can do. As far as the after discussion is, they've agreed to move their stuff out of the resource area. So for now, that's fine with us. And he's gonna go back out there and look at the site again and see if there's any
Other
restoration.
issues need to be addressed.
Right.
How will we,
Tonight, we're moving in a positive direction by taking those piles out of the resource area.
Right, exactly.
how will we define the resource area?
Now, my thing is
We're not here to
also,
create a
I'm gonna be
problem.
leaving for 3 months, can we move it in the spring?
No.
Okay, just asking.
Okay, let's move it now.
Okay, I need to know, right,
Move it out of there now before we get snows.
okay.
how, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, how do we know where the buffer line is if we don't have a delineated wetland boundary?
You've been out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, again, I didn't walk the entire back behind 83 Graniteville. I stayed mostly behind kind of 87 where the area disturbance or the current activities are occurring. And I will go back out this week and take a look.
Man, that showed a wetlands delineation
Yes,
before.
the A&R.
Right now is to
Good.
work off that
He'll
existing
work off of
plan.
that plan.
So.
He
push it
can
outside.
delineate what we need to know for now.
Yeah, we're more than happy. I can walk with him and just tell me what we need to do, and we'll do it, whatever it
Okay.
takes.
And he'll look at the wetlands boundary on this map and determine behind 87 where it actually is.
Yeah.
Okay?
And if there are other things that need to be addressed or restored,
He'll come back at our
he'll come
January
back
12th
and
meeting.
make those comments, and we'll come up with some
Okay.
sort of strategy
Fair enough.
and
Not
recommendation.
for me.
Okay. Okay, we all set?
And I know you wanted to come up and have some, so.
Just come up and identify yourself.
I'm Diane Sincotta, I'm Karen's sister. I go there all the time. It doesn't really matter. I live in Sudbury, very strict conservation laws. I've been at that house, I've seen excavation trucks, I've seen asphalt, I've seen cement, I've seen tires. I have seen more garbage on top of the wetlands, and here, this committee is like, well, we don't ask for permission here, we just say, go and maybe correct it. I can't believe that a taxpaying resident has to come here and say, can you please stop this person from using this as a commercial dumping ground? That's what 87 Graniteville Road has become, a commercial dumping ground. And Matt, I'm a little disappointed, you've seen multiple pictures, you've seen pictures with excavators sitting on the wetlands.
I disagree.
Has that not been the case?
Well, no, wait, let her speak.
Has that not been the case? I'm trying to understand, how many more pictures? Pictures of asphalt.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned about you accessing a property that isn't yours, but that's a whole nother.
You don't have to. You don't, you can look out my sister's kitchen window and you can see the piles.
I got cameras, I watch her walk down my backyard all the time here.
Oh, I got cameras. Listen, there are no leaves
I
down.
honestly think that we are taking the steps that we need to take to start addressing this. We're gonna have Matt go out again, take a look at it, see what further needs to be addressed. I think we're acting in a manner that's appropriate.
And we can discuss it again.
If it's not quite as expeditious or as comprehensive, if you'd like it to be, I think we're gonna get there. We just had this evening.
Okay, and I appreciate it, and this isn't, as Matt said, this isn't the first time these complaints have come to this committee. These complaints have been logged for years, that this activity has been going
For 22 years.
prior to
I've
Matt.
never seen a complaint on 87 Granite Hill Road.
22, and this is the first time I've seen
I've never seen a complaint on this
Heard
property.
there was a complaint at our last meeting, and this is the first time.
This is it. We just got
So,
this.
yeah, and if you think otherwise, then show us the complaints, because we've been here.
We would ask the commission to consider that. In order to be able to track the restoration of this area in compliance with pulling back out of the resource area, that it wouldn't seem inappropriate at all that the commission ask for a request for a determination so that a delineation can be established, then a buffer zone can be established, and then a restoration plan be identified to restore it. There is a stream crossing that has been filled with a culvert that has been placed. I don't care if it was done yesterday or 10 years ago. In all instances, it's a clear violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. And it is ordinarily handled.
Go out there and take a look.
And it ordinarily handled by a filing that details a wetlands boundary, a buffer, and a restoration plan.
Yeah, well, that may be, but right now, he's going out to check the delineation from the old plan. He's very capable of delineating the wetland, and that's what we're gonna do. Because, he hasn't filed anything for that dry spot, and we don't care about that right now. What we care about is where the line is behind his house, and that's what he's gonna go do. And he'll go out there and look and see what other things that may have occurred on the site.
And this gentleman here says he's gonna push these piles out and get them, well outside the buffer, so, we're taking a concrete, positive first step.
We're not here to fight. I mean, I think we just need to, the sad part today is everybody wants to point fingers and yell at everybody, The sad part is we're all good people, all right? We're all trying to do the right thing, but if someone's upset about something, and then everybody's gonna worry about everybody else except for themselves.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to reemphasize, this is the first we've ever heard of this. I mean, Eric's been on the commission for 26 years. I've been on it for 22.
So have I for 22.
Understood.
I'll explain the cultivator or a big bucket loader. Mark's friend, another contractor, comes in,
He turns it over.
piles it up. And he has a cultivator, and he's storing it there while he's not using it.
That's good, so we know where we're going from here. Okay?
That again, I think you had, Mr. Chairman, you had indicated before, that's a use issue and that goes to somebody else. A
Correct.
commercial use in a residential zone is a matter not for this commission.
That's right.
It's for a different board.
It is.
Yep,
It's for a
that's
different board.
absolutely for a
Right.
different
We're just
board.
concerned with the wetland boundary,
Yep.
and that's what we're trying to establish.
Yep.
Where it is,
Nope.
where his piles can go, and then if it's a use issue, that's another board's issue.
But I
Okay?
don't want you to think for one moment that we're not concerned with your concerns, and that we haven't heard what you said, or that we discount it in any way, 'cause
Yeah,
we don't.
exactly, we don't.
And we, like we say, this is the first we've heard of it. We'll make sure we take the steps to get everything where it should be, and we'll move forward. But it's certainly not like we're not listening to what you're saying, because we are.
Yeah.
And we certainly will do what we need to do to set things straight. So we appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the time. Good night.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
We're done?
You're done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is conservation land, Sycamore and Cypress Road. It's on there. Anything happen, Matt?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything going on yet? No. No. Okay, there you go. It's on
Now I
there.
have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I walked into that.
This has been going on since May. It was in May that
The
they cut-
trees.
Right.
Right.
There were three
promised.
mature oak trees cut down on a little tiny patch of conservation land that we have care and custody of at the intersection of Sycamore and Cypress Roads in Nabonasset. Somehow the town was involved. The town DPW truck was there.
Matt can come back and tell us about it.
Overseeing the cutting by a commercial cutter. I don't understand what the relationship was, why it was being cut. It was not to protect overhead electrical wires. There are other trees right in that general vicinity that are closer to the wires. I don't know.
So the town hasn't done anything?
It hasn't done anything.
No.
I
So
will
what is the
get,
plan?
I will get boulders installed. I will buy boulders myself and install them.
I think the highway department probably has some sources.
Right, I mean, something from the top of the hill, I'm sure there's something out there. I will get
Okay.
I'll ask.
They don't have to plant blueberry bushes yet, but they can do that in the
The
spring.
spring, right.
But for right now.
Just
we can put-
boulders?
we can put
Okay.
boulders and we'll plant in between them in the spring.
Okay.
We've got a request from Providence Road, Lot 2, request to work after December 1st.
Is that a written request?
It is.
All right.
Good evening, Mark Slager from Allen Engineering on behalf of Ray Adams, the builder of Lot 2. You recall this is part of the old Adams property that the commission bought, and there were 2 lots left over.
Yep.
The only thing we're looking to do is cut down the trees so he can drill a well. The well is outside the 50-foot, but I think it's outside the 75 also. We're not looking to stump anything, we just want to get the tree guy in there, clear it, put in the well.
Sounds fun.
Is there any reason to put up any hay bale or
Control
anything?
measures or anything, or is
I
it?
would want erosion
All of the erosion control will be in place.
It will.
It's not in place yet.
Okay.
He's still working. He doesn't know when he's gonna start. He's still working
Okay,
with it.
so-
But I want erosion controls for the well,
You-
well
absolutely.
digging, for
Okay.
the effluent, for lack of a better term.
Okay. So, yeah, so we can give approval with the condition that he inspect it
Provide that.
before you do it.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So can I have a motion to that effect?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You're
Thank
good.
you very much.
Yep. Certificate of compliance, 85 Carlisle Road.
This is a certificate of compliance for for an older order of conditions from, I think, 2004. It was, yeah. And it is now a new developer is taking control to, looking to finish the 3 lots. So first, they need to get a certificate of compliance for the drainage and the well that was previously installed. Everything looks to be, they're gonna be coming back for us, so we got another.
I
bite at the
remember, this
apple.
has been sitting around for a long time, and it continues just to sit there.
Yep.
It's near that, near the
Yeah,
fields.
yeah, it's by the,
Across from
across from the fields.
Yeah.
So, actually, don't sign that one, Peter. That's 719. Yeah, sorry, sign it.
So did they meet the terms of the original,
For the work that they did, there's deeds that still haven't been prepared, so, again, there's gonna be another notice of intent coming back, so,
so are you in favor or not in favor?
yes, I am in favor.
You are?
Okay.
Okay.
It's really good to know.
Motion to approve the certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 3 Cold Spring Road?
We're gonna sit on that for a
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, set.
Okay.
Minutes, October 13th,
No problem.
Looks
no
good.
problems.
Good to me.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes from October 27th.
Look good to me again.
Ditto.
Ditto? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that it?
Just observing?
Just observing.
I have to be abstained from the October 13th because I wasn't here.
You weren't here, right. Okay. Shit.
Under site visits, remember, there was gonna be a visit with Dave Evanson of the trust and me and you.
Yep, I will be setting that up.
All right.
Probably next week, it's looking to be 50.
Okay, give me a call.
Will do.
Okay.
You're sitting here patiently.
Just observing, yep.
Just observing?
I think we're on YouTube, to be honest.
Yeah, after the fact, yeah.
No,
Much more fun. It's much more fun to be here than to watch on YouTube.
that'd be the question to ask. Yeah.
Usually it's not this lively.
Usually don't get
First
yelled
time
at.
in a long time.
Well, you know, try to be civil at all times.
The last time we had a bus
It
of
is?
people was
Yes,
when we
there's
had a forestry plan.
Not gonna do anything about.
Yeah, you got it.
Saying.
One of my neighbors came up and asked me if we were gonna do anything. They were in favor of it, believe it or not. I said, well, where were you at the meeting?
You said that?
In favor of what one?
EBC forestry plan.
Certain paragraphs in the master plan that are sacrosanct and they
These,
shall be
these,
obeyed
these
forever and
people
ever,
are
and
both
there's others that you have to
science
ignore.
people that, one of them has a degree like in, I don't know, something, land management or something like that, so. But yeah, they were concerned that,
We
you
were
know.
trying to do the right thing.
I know you're trying to do the right thing, so, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when it starts to talk about, you know, that the overstory is too crowded so that the trees themselves are not that healthy, and you start to think about, okay,
Yep.
are there things that down the road we're gonna regret not having done?
Yeah. One little bug goes into Worcester and have to cut down and kill
Yeah.
and grind up 35,000 trees.
I pulled up the map a couple weeks ago, because, just. for
Tens of
another thing,
thousands.
And it blew my mind, the points on the.
Yeah, isn't it unbelievable?
Yeah, and I mean, I grew up 2 towns south of it,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize the scope of it at the, you know, I knew it was bad, and, you know, you saw some areas being cleared, but you don't realize, you start seeing little points on a map, and it really, is shocking and kind of, it's a very stark.
One species, one bug, and can wipe out the whole forest.
Oh, yeah.
And just, you know, the number of people around
Yeah,
town that are just having, you know, having
Got lost there many times.
people come in and take down 10 or 12 tall white
Yeah.
pines and.
That's saying
Golf
they,
and played on the golf course. They used to have the,
Yeah, the
Wow.
PGA Tour.
I know.
Yeah.
And then the
That's
guy
good
saying,
way
oh,
back.
we're gonna be in your area. If you'd like to take some trees down, let us know.
They came right into our yard,
Dealerships would sponsor the cars.
Yeah.
on
And so
town,
they'd pull
in
up
our
the
yard, and cut down trees. One was
Yeah.
like 8
Yeah.
inches,
So I'd pick up
another
the
was
guys to-
4.
So he drove like
And
that, and
it was an area that we don't even have some.
he's like, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I drove those like that."
We're near the line, but these weren't near the line, and they just came and did it anyway. And they didn't ask us. I mean,
Did-
other than that notice that went out to the whole town.
Okay. Yeah, we actually had
I
National
love
Grid
sweet sign
contact
down
us
there.
because somebody had said, ooh, you know, there's a tree that's, along your driveway that's putting power lines in this. Which tree?
Well, I read some places like, oh, I know, the one that they're doing at Millstone?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Why are they clearing all those trees? Are they making money? As it said,
Oh, the road up to Haystack Observatory?
Yeah.
I thought they were,
I mean,
it's
They're
clearing
just
35 feet on
35
either
feet.
side of the roadway.
yeah.
Peter, you're
Yeah.
coming forward with the 190,000, right?
Yes.
I'm surprised that an institution such as Haystack would want to cut down all those trees.
Oh, question,
What,
Well,
what kind of example is that?
Before
What's your
Christmas is
question?
one. I only got one
What I
response.
was
I've only
thinking
got, like,
is,
everybody, I've had like 2
our next
people
meeting
like say
is
no.
our last meeting of the year.
Yeah, and it's very, it's gonna be very brief.
You wanted,
Just one thing, and it's not National Grid. It's,
so did you want to have cider or anything, or nothing?
well, yeah, it'll be a short
I'll
meeting.
bring
We'll just
cider.
have the one thing we'll continue with. Yeah, bring cider and I'll bring
Cider.
macaroons and.
And I'll bring some meringue cookies.
Okay, send us a reminder.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure to send that.
Yeah, but it will be a short meeting, it's just that one item. We wanted to open it because there was 205 abutters that they had to notify.
Oh, my
Yeah, I
Oh,
felt bad.
what one is this?
The which
Now, it's the transmission lines going through town.
The big transmission
Yeah,
lines.
they're looking to do exploratory borings for improving the system or something.
What, yeah.
It's gonna get continued, so.
New transmission lines? Or?
Okay.
Or just maybe replacement of some of the supports.
Is anybody else cold? I feel like it's, no, I must be.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't know.
There's a bunch of
It
wooden
is
supports
one,
that have
not
been in there for, I don't know, 40 years.
No, I just don't know where, you know, if they're improving existing ones or proposing a new
Right.
line.
Who knows, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
You know,
Aye.
having my coat?